Thank you everyone who's joined so far today. I'm going to go ahead and just get started with some introductions about the Brandon Hall Group Awards. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the meeting, or you can go ahead and ask in the chat, whatever you would prefer. All right, I'm going to go ahead and let everybody see the screen so that you're able to see the presentation. So the Brandon Hall Group Awards, if you're not familiar, we have a lot of different awards programs. We have 4 different ones every year. This year, in this webinar, we're going to be focusing on the technology awards and how to win a gold award. So on the agenda for today, we're just going to talk a little bit about those tech awards, the judging, category selection, criteria. I'll walk you through an application that has won a gold award in the past, just showing some examples of best practices when writing an application, the benefits, and I'll go over any questions at the end as well. So the 3 awards programs we have open right now for submission are going to be the Technology Awards, the Education Technology, as well as Excellence in Action, which is a new program that we launched this year. The Tech Awards you'd want to enter if you're a solution provider and you offer a technology that might cover learning, talent management, HR, some of those areas, and you're able to enter in that one. Education Technology focuses on innovative and cutting edge trailblazers in education technology. It's typically for universities, business schools, professional development. That's where you'd want to submit if you fall under that category. And then Excellence in Action is a little bit different in that it's going to revolve around the voice of the employee. It has 18 different categories like company culture, wellness, and that one is going to be open until October 17th to submit. The technology and education technology are both going to be open until September 12th. And then just a little bit about our technology awards. We're entering our 32nd year with this. We've had a lot of different companies around the globe win and submit and win every year, and this webinar is really just going to focus on how to win a gold for it. This is just some of our judge panel. We wanted to provide a few of the panelists from our most recent awards program for HCM that did actively participate, and then go into a little bit about what qualifications they need to have. So typically our judge panel consists of expert consultants, corporate professional managers and leaders, HR practitioners. They have to have certain academic background as well as experience and years of experience within the industry. All of our judges are volunteer and they score applications, and we come to a common consensus on those scores, and that's how we determine if your award application is going to be a gold, a silver, a bronze, or a non-winning application. And if you ever want to see those on our website, you can always click this link right here and see those FAQs. We also do have a couple judge pages that we update each year after an award cycle, where we list all of the judge profiles of the judges that did actively participate. Category selection. That's a question that we get a lot, so I did want to include it today. So when selecting a category, it can be difficult. We do have a lot. So for the technology awards, there's typically about 90 different categories you can choose from, and they all fall within these 6 different program areas. So learning and development, talent management, talent acquisition, human resources, sales enablement, and future of work. Those are all going to be listed on our website. So when you go on our website and click these drop downs, you'll be able to see all those categories available. Something unique about the technology awards is that it's one application form for every single category. So it does make a little bit of the judging criteria easier if you're submitting multiple applications, in the sense that you're able to have those same criteria, and then you indicate which category and you fill in the content of that application specific to the category that you selected. Our awards brochure also does have a little bit more detail listed out about each category. So if you ever wanted to go and browse that, that's also listed right there on our website as well. So again, if you want to enter, you can, for the technology awards, you'd want to be a solution provider offering a technology. For the ed tech awards, typically it's universities, nonprofits, things like that. And you can enter alone or with a client organization. And I'll get into some of the details and things that you'd want to do writing your application, differing between those two. And then we'll go on to the criteria. So the criteria I mentioned before, there's going to be 5 main ones. It's going to be value proposition, innovation, unique differentiators, the demo section, and measurable results. Each of these criteria are going to be scored out of 6 points with a total of 30. And that is how our scoring rubric goes. So when the judges look at your application, they're going to start off with that first criteria value proposition. They're going to make sure that it clearly describes examples of how your solution addresses business needs. And there are some more details included within the application itself, which we'll get into shortly. And they'll score that on a scale of 1 to 6. So to score a gold award, you need to earn 28 to 30 of those points. Silver would be 25 to 27, bronze would be 22 to 24, and anything below that would be considered a non-winning application. Something else that we do offer is feedback. So if you submit an award and you win maybe a bronze, but you want to know some feedback if you're a non-winner, even if you win a gold award, you can always request that from our team, and you can just email awards@brandonhall.com. And someone from our team will make sure that we get that feedback over to you so that you can see what the judges pointed out, the positives as well as any negatives if there were any. And then this is just kind of breaking that down. So these are the scale of 1 to 6 that the judges are going to use within each criteria. So they look at value proposition, they're going to score it between 1 to 6, between exceptionally weak and extraordinary. And again, here's that point breakdown for you. Okay, and then the first part of the application that you'll want to start with is going to be the entry information. So you'll want to put your entry title, and you can make that unique to your application and how you want to name it. So if you want to put the name of your solution as well as the category name or something like that, you can feel free to do that. The organization that's entering, so you'll want to put your company name if you're the entering organization. And if you are jointly submitting and there's another company with you, you can enter that right here. If you have any PR companies that you're working with that had to do with the technology, you can also enter their information here if you'd like. The date, the category, and then a brief description. And then for company background, you'll want to go ahead and provide all these details. And I did put an example here. If you want to just take a look, I'll give you a second to do so. Okay, so again, you'll want to start with the headquarters, the year it was founded, the revenue, employee number, global scale, customer output, industry, stock symbol, and website. And now I'm going to take a pause here to go ahead and switch my screen to an example to show you. Okay, and now for the example, you should be able to see here. So this was an award entry that won a gold award. So the first criteria that we're going to go over is value proposition. And some of the things that value proposition requires is providing details of how your solution solves a problem and addresses business needs. So in this example, you can see that they clearly named the solution right here, and they showed a visual example of it, which is always a great aspect to add to your application to kind of make it stand out, just to give it a little bit more character and to show the panel what you're really talking about. Next, you can see that they clearly do address the business needs. So for example, this entry was entered by Wells Fargo, and again, they won a gold award. And they highlight the solution and how to solve that problem and need right here. They outline that. And then they go into an example, which is required in the criteria, but it's also a great way to show the judge panel how your technology is actually being used, and kind of backing it up and just supporting it with more details, with images. And as you go through this application, you're actually able to see that this entry provided multiple different examples. They continued with that first one with more specifics. They went on and entered a couple of more. And with each example, they not only provided a graphic, but they went on to elaborate the impact of that example and what it's doing to really show how their technology is working, how it's solving that need, how it's addressing that business need um, with their technology. With this application, they actually were able to provide quite a few examples, and that's optional. You don't have to provide all this if you don't have so many graphics to include. Some other ways you can do that is within the demo section that's going to be criteria for, which we'll get to. You can provide videos, you can do walkthroughs, and you're able to really show the judge panel a glimpse into your platform and how it's being used, and that helps build the context of the application and the technology. It helps really set the environment, and it helps really make your application stand out when you're able to provide some of these details for the panel to see and evaluate to get a really comprehensive and in-depth look at your technology. So again, in this application, they provided quite a few different examples, and we're happy to share this with you after the meeting. You can also access, we have thousands of these examples of past voting entries in our institute, which is our member center. And I'm happy to send details about that after this webinar as well. And I did put some details in the chat about it. We will also be sharing this whole presentation deck with you so that you have it for your reference when you're building your technology applications this year. So again, just a few more ways that examples are provided, and it's going to be depending on what your technology looks like and how you want to present that. But just some things to think about when writing your application. Next, we'll move on to criteria 2, which is going to be innovation. And within this criteria, it's going to be the product or program innovation. So in the application section, we provide you a few different prompts that you can use to provide a description of the effectiveness of your solution, the ease of how you use it, efficient processing, advanced methods and strategies. So we offer you different prompts that you can select from. You don't have to answer all, but to name a few, simplicity of your solution is one of them, and you can see with this example that that was one of the ones chosen. So when you are looking at that one, you can see that they went ahead and they outlined, the simplicity of it, and then they go on to elaborate a little bit further, which we'll see in a second with some graphics. Advanced functionality, that is another one that we offer as a prompt that's you can choose from to elaborate on. And another great thing I want to point out about this example is that right here in the beginning, they do kind of outline the flow of how this section's going to go. And organization and the narrative of your application is also very important. It's something that not every submission form has, but it does make it stand out from the others when you're able to really organize it in a way that explains to the judge panel, here are these different areas of innovation that we have. Here's how we use them. You go into a little bit more of elaboration on it, and then you provide an example for them to actually see it, and you provide that supporting kind of documentation right there within your submission form as well. This application also used client service approach, and some of the other innovation areas that you can choose from are going to be pricing model, flexibility, customization, integration, development methods, and market positioning and approach. So when we go ahead and move into criteria 3, that's going to be the unique differentiators. And for the unique differentiator section, you're going to you are going to provide details of how your solution is unique. And we do have the optional section in there that says screenshots or visual examples of specific differentiators are helpful. I will say that those suggestions in our applications are always a great way to help your application stand out from others if you are able to address those and elaborate on those in your submission. It helps it really stand out from just from other applications and things like that. So in this example, you can see that for unique differentiators, they explained, how the solution is unique. They outlined that to start it off, and then they go in more into depth for each of that. These are some examples of that support and elaboration, integrated and comprehensive development, and then how they did that. And they have quantifiable data as well as qualitative to kind of back that up with their skill section, their integrated career development, and their education and exposure. And then again, including graphics is always helpful. Being able to include percentages and really kind of just dive more into depth about the different areas in which it's unique is always great. It's always helpful to provide more than one area of uniqueness as well if you're able to, and kind of focus on those different perspectives and aspects. And then the final section of the application is going to be the measurable results. And as you can see in this one, it's a shorter section, but it's really where you're able to just include those results, however it was that you measured them, whether it was adoption rate, development activity tracking, however you were able to measure that is how you want to provide it. And I do want to mention something too. If there's ever sections that you need to keep confidential, whether it's for your own organization or it's for if you're entering jointly and it's for a client, you can always highlight those sections in red and it will not affect the scoring of your application in any way. So some areas that we find that to be a common question is going to be in that measurable results section, as well as in the beginning in the company background under revenue, things like that. We understand the sensitivity of those areas, so highlighting them in red, marking them as confidential for our team, just kind of does that double check of making sure that if your application is published and you accept that publishing permission, that we take those sections out and it will not affect the scoring of your application. So one area that I skipped over was criteria 4, and that's going to fit in right between the unique differentiators and the measurable benefits. And the reason I skipped over that is because that's not a section that you'll be including in this application in your written submission form in the Word document you submit. There's going to be a section in the application itself, so where you'll upload this document, you'll have a section to include up to 3 URLs, and that's a really important section because that's really where you can give our judge panel an insight into your technology. Whether that be a video walking through how it works, whether that be a video of kind of the user experience. If you're able to create a kind of test platform where the judge panel can log in and kind of see how the technology actually works and interact with it. That's a really great place where you have some creativity to provide different ways that you're showing the demo of your technology, but that can really make an application stand out, especially if you're able to really walk through the technology and give the judge panel just a whole comprehensive view of how it actually works and how they would actually be able to use it if they were to be utilizing that technology within their organization. All right, and then that's going to wrap up the example. So I'm just going to take a second here to hop back to the presentation deck, and then shortly I'll leave the floor open for any questions that we might have. Okay, and now I believe that you're able to see the presentation again. So back to the agenda we'll go through. We walked through the application, so we're going to skip over to the benefits and then any questions you might have. And again, I'll send this over to you so that you have it for reference, but we do outline just the criteria. These are the questions, how they actually ask it in the application. And these were some of the points that I went over when going through the example. So some benefits for participating, there are quite a few. After each of our awards programs, we have online webinar announcements. So for the technology and the education technology awards, those are going to happen on December 4th of this year. And you're able to register for that right on our website, which I'm always happy to send a link if you want to send me an email or ask in the chat or anything like that. That you'll be able to register for that webinar and you'll receive a link to join on the day of. With that, we recognize every organization that has won. And if you enter jointly, we will recognize both organizations that won separately within that announcement. Following the announcements, we'll send out email communications about your results, and that will contain details with plaque ordering information, where you can find all of your results information, your awards credentials. We provide you with a digital badge, a digital certificate, press release guide, and there's a lot of different pieces that we'll go ahead and put right within your submission portal. So one other good thing, one practice to do when creating your application, log in your applicant profile, is to create it with an email that is going to be easily accessible to the team. So if you have a kind of a distribution email or something like that that you'd want to use as your login, that's always a great way because we host the credentials within the same portal where you submitted. So if multiple people need to log in, And it's a distribution email. They can share those credentials and log in. If not, you can also use your own email, and that's fine too. A couple other things that we do is any award winners have the opportunity of doing a podcast with our COO, Rachel Cook. Again, we have the digital badge, the certificate, we also do recognize any award winners at attendance at our conference. So this year that's going to be between February 9th and 12th. And on the second day, we have an awards gala at night. And it's a really great event. It's a lot of fun. And any organizations that have won an award throughout the year in any of the awards programs, not just the technology, are recognized. We'll call you up on stage. You'll receive a trophy from our CEO and COO. And it's really just a great event. It's a great event for photographs, for networking. So if you want to come and attend our conference, that would be great. And we'll also send you some details about that as well and where you can register and get ready for that conference in February. If you're not an award-winning organization, we'll still provide you with a certificate of participation and discounted HCM conference pass rates. Okay, and then that's going to kind of wrap up our walkthrough of the technology applications. So at this time, I'll open the floor up to any questions. If there's any questions about the application itself, if you want to see any of the screens again, I'm happy to answer those as well. I do see a few questions in the chat, so I'll go ahead and address those at this time. We will be sending a copy of the slides and the recording to you, so you are able to access that. And if you ever need to email our team, you can email awards@brandonhall.com. That's our primary awards inbox. You can also feel free to email me. I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat for everyone, but it's going to be sam.roehm@brandonhall.com, just so that you have it in case you have any questions, because that deadline for the technology awards is coming up in just 10 days here. Some of the common pitfalls we see from vendors submitting applications, and any applicants really, is not providing enough detail. So it's really important that you do spend time on each of these sections because of the way that scoring is laid out, where each section is going to be worth 6 points. So you really want to make sure you not only address the question, but you elaborate on it and you provide as much support as you can. So in the example we looked at where there were a lot of graphics, that's a great way to do that. You also, if you have a lot of graphics and you don't want to break up the flow of your application, one of the good ways that we've seen organizations handle that is to create an appendix section where you can actually refer to those graphics in the text of your application without kind of breaking up the flow of it. So another thing to focus on too is going to be that flow and the narrative, and really telling, why did your technology need to be created? How is it solving that problem of why it needed to be created? If you faced any challenges or obstacles, those are also great things to highlight. And sometimes I think those are left out of applications because they're not always seen in a positive light, but it's actually a really great way to show the judge panel, how you really were able to overcome obstacles and issues with your technology solution. I also see a question about submitting an entry last year and wanting the judge's feedback. So you can just go ahead and email me or awards@brandonhall.com, and I'm happy to get that over to you. You'll receive that feedback from our COO, Rachel Cook. It usually takes us about a couple of weeks to compile it. We do still have a lot of requests from the HCM awards that we just announced last month. But we are happy to provide you feedback on any of your past applications as well as any future applications. All right, and I believe that is all the questions in the chat. So if anyone else has any, I'll leave the meeting open for a couple more minutes. If not, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. We also will be doing another webinar September 8th of this month. It is coming up pretty soon, here in about 6 days. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, feel free to. I do post updates to when our webinars happen and things like that on there. And that one's going to focus on the tech awards a little bit. It's also going to focus on the Excellence in Action Awards, since that deadline is going to be coming up in about a month here. So again, thank you so much for everybody that attended today. We really appreciate it, and we really hope to see you submit this year Any follow-up questions you might have from you or your team or client, feel free to email awards@brandonhall.com. You can also email me directly at any time, and I'm happy to help. And I also have an email calendar where you can schedule meetings with me at any time that I'll provide. One other resource we have started doing recently as well is office hours. So every other Friday, I have time set out where I answer questions for applicants. So if you ever want to pop in and ask some questions, I would be happy to talk to you. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's webinar. But again, thank you and best of luck this year.